My name is Hannah Cole, I'm 28. And at a family dinner my parents told me to hand over the house I inherited from my grandmother, or I'd no longer be their daughter. If you've ever faced something like this, comment where you're reading from. It was Saturday, 1908, the smell of roast beef and onions filling the dining room. The table gleamed under the chandelier, wine glasses catching the light. Dad set down his fork, looked me dead in the eye and said, "Stop being selfish. That house is too big for you. Your brother needs it more. Either share it or we'll cut you off." My fork froze halfway to my mouth. My brother smirked into his glass of Cabernet. Mom's voice followed, sweet but sharp. "It's a free house, Hannah. You didn't earn it. Be smart. Family first." The walls felt suddenly close, the ticking of the clock loud against my ribs. My grandmother's voice flickered in my memory, her hand squeezing mine at the hospital bed, whispering, "Take care of it. Don't let them change it." I laid my fork down gently. "I see," I said softly, pushing back my chair. Mom frowned. "Don't walk away from family." But I did. I stood, smoothed my skirt, and left the table in silence. The cold air outside bit at my skin, the stars sharp against the black sky. Because what they didn't know, what I hadn't told them, was that the house wasn't as free as they thought. And in exactly 7 days, when they brought a realtor to step inside, they would wish they had never touched my grandmother's walls. The following Tuesday at 1855, I stopped by my parents' house after work. The smell of bleach still clung to the air. Mom had clearly done one of her deep cleans. I barely had my coat off before Dad gestured for me to sit. My brother was already there, sprawled on the couch with a smug grin scrolling through his phone. Dad cleared his throat. "We've talked it over. It's decided. The house should go to your brother. He's starting a family. You don't need all that space." I kept my voice even. It was Grandma's house. She left it to me. Mom waved her hand dismissively. "Legally, sure. But spiritually, she wanted family unity. You living alone in a 4-bedroom house makes no sense. Think of this as balance." I folded my hands in my lap. "Balance?" My brother finally looked up, smirk widening. "Don't make this hard. A realtor's already coming Saturday at 11 o'clock to check it out. Once it's listed, we'll figure out the split." The words hit like a slap. Listed? They were acting like it was already theirs. I noticed Dad watching me closely, waiting for me to explode, to argue, to beg. Instead, I just nodded slowly. "If that's what you've decided." Mom smiled, satisfied. "Good girl. You'll see, it's for the best." Inside, my chest burned. I pictured the key that always rested in my bag, the smell of my grandmother's cedar chest still lingering in the upstairs bedroom, the deed with my name on it locked in my desk drawer. They thought silence meant surrender. But I was already making plans. Because when Saturday came and they stepped across that threshold with their realtor, what they'd find waiting would make them regret ever calling me selfish. The house wasn't just brick and wood. It was my grandmother's legacy. I spent half my childhood there. Summers on the wide front porch, sipping lemonade she made with extra sugar. Winters curled on the faded green sofa. The smell of cedar from her old chest filling the room while she read aloud from her tattered novels. Every corner carried her touch. Embroidered curtains, chipped teacups, the grandfather clock that chimed a few minutes late but always on the hour. When she passed, I was 25. I still remember standing in the lawyer's office, the air heavy with the scent of old paper, when he read her will. "To my granddaughter Hannah, I leave the house on Willow Street. She is the one who will care for it." Mom's face tightened, Dad's jaw clenched, my brother's lips curled. They expected it to be theirs, something to sell, to split, to use. Instead, it was mine. For the last 3 years, I've lived there alone. It wasn't glamorous. Peeling paint, a leaky faucet, uneven floorboards, but it was home. I worked extra shifts to cover taxes, spent $4,200 on repairs in the first year alone, and still managed to keep the spirit of the place alive. Meanwhile, my parents ignored it. My brother scoffed at the drafty old box. Until, of course, they realized its market value had jumped to nearly $420,000. Suddenly, it wasn't a burden. It was a prize. And every holiday since, I've endured their comments. "Too much space for one person. You should think about selling. Don't be selfish, Hannah." But selfish? I remembered Grandma's hand squeezing mine, her whisper, Don't let them change it. What's at stake isn't just property. It's respect. It's the last piece of her that's still alive in my daily life. They wanted to strip it away with one meeting and a realtor's clipboard. But they had no idea that I'd been keeping my own records, my own leverage. And soon when they tried to cross my grandmother's threshold, they'd learn what happens when you push too far. Thursday evening, 21:16. I sat at my grandmother's oak desk in the upstairs study. The lamp cast a warm pool of light, the rest of the house dark and quiet. I pulled open the bottom drawer and slid out the fireproof box I kept hidden beneath stacks of old linens. Inside were 3 years of proof. First, the deed. Heavy cream paper, my full name written in precise black ink. Hannah Cole, sole owner of 114 Willow Street. The lawyer's stamp and signature glared from the bottom corner. Then the receipts. Folders stuffed with invoices. $1,200 for replacing the furnace in November 2020. $2,000 to fix the roof leaks after last spring's storm. $1,000 for electrical rewiring when the kitchen lights shorted out. Each receipt bore my name, my bank card, my signature. Proof that while they scoffed at the old house, I kept it alive. Finally, the photos. I'd taken them almost without thinking, me on a ladder, painting the shutters, me kneeling in the garden, dirt on my hands, the new roof shingles stacked neatly before installation. Every timestamp etched into the corner of each print. I laid them across the desk, one by one, my chest tightening but steady. They thought I was a passive owner, clinging sentimentally to something I didn't deserve. But here was the truth in black and white. I earned every inch of that house since Grandma left it to me. I pulled out my phone, snapped fresh photos of everything, and saved them in a folder labeled Willow Proof. Then I slid the originals back into the fireproof box, snapping it shut with a metallic click. The air smelled faintly of cedar, the same scent that always reminded me of Grandma. For the first time in weeks, I felt her presence beside me, quiet but firm. I whispered into the silence, "Don't worry, Grandma. They won't take it." And in that moment the choice crystallized. I wasn't just going to defend the house. I was going to make them regret ever stepping inside it. Friday, 14:32. I sat across from Mr. Landon, a real estate attorney whose office smelled of old coffee and floor polish. The blinds were half drawn, stripes of sunlight cutting across his desk piled high with case files. I slid the folder across to him, deed, receipts, photos, and waited while he flipped through each page. He adjusted his glasses. "Hannah, this is airtight. The deed is in your name alone, witnessed and recorded. The receipts prove you've invested in maintenance and taxes. No co-ownership, no trust, no stipulations. You're the legal and financial owner. Period." My shoulders eased a fraction. So they can't force a sale? Even if they bring in a realtor? He shook his head. Absolutely not. They can't sell what they don't own. The realtor would be risking his license if he listed it without your consent. I leaned forward, lowering my voice. But what if they try something underhanded? Pretend it's theirs, walk a buyer through, claim it's a family home? Mr. Landon tapped the deed with his pen. Then it's fraud. And you'd have every right to pursue legal action. In fact, you could preemptively file a notice of ownership with the county clerk, which makes any attempted sale automatically suspicious. Costs about $75 and 20 minutes of paperwork. The wall clock ticked to 14:47, each second grounding me further. I nodded slowly. Good. Because Saturday at 11 they're bringing someone over. A realtor. He raised his brows. Then this is your chance. Have your proof ready. If they cross the line, you don't need to shout, you just need to show. I gathered the papers back into my folder, the crisp edges biting at my fingertips. That's exactly what I planned to do. When I walked out into the brisk afternoon air, my bag heavier with both documents and resolve, I felt something I hadn't in weeks: control. The house wasn't just legally mine. It was unshakably mine. And tomorrow, when they walked through that front door with their smug realtor, they'd discover just how powerless they really were. Saturday, 10:59 a.m. I watched from the upstairs window as my parents pulled into the driveway, my brother swaggering behind them, and a man in a navy suit, clearly the realtor, carrying a clipboard. The crunch of gravel under their shoes carried through the quiet air. My chest was steady. The folder of documents sat on the entryway table, waiting. The front door opened with my key before they could even knock. Morning, I said flatly. Dad cleared his throat. Hannah, this is Mr. Dalton. He's here to do a quick walkthrough. We'll discuss the listing after. I stepped aside just enough to let them file in. Mr. Dalton glanced around, pen poised. Nice bones. Market in this area is hot. You'll be looking at around $420,000 easy. My brother grinned. Told you, Dad. This will go fast. I let them enjoy the fantasy for exactly 30 seconds before I spoke. Funny, because according to the deed, which is in my sole name, no listing is possible without me. Dad waved a hand. Don't start, Hannah. Family assets are family decisions. I reached for the folder, flipped it open and slid the deed across the table. The thick paper glared under the sunlight pouring through the window. This isn't a family asset. It's mine. Signed, witnessed, and filed 3 years ago. Mr. Dalton froze, eyes darting between us. Wait. It's only in your name? Yes, I said. Then I laid out the receipts one by one, the ink sharp, the numbers undeniable. $1,200 furnace, $2,000 roof, $1,000 wiring. I've paid every tax, every repair. Your clients haven't paid a dime. Silence. Mr. Dalton closed his clipboard slowly. I can't legally proceed here. If the deed isn't shared, my hands are tied. My brother's smirk collapsed. Mom's face went pale. Dad sputtered. You can't do this to us. I leaned forward, voice calm, deliberate. I didn't do this to you. You tried to do it to me. Big difference. Mr. Dalton cleared his throat, adjusting his tie. I'll see myself out. He was gone in seconds, leaving them stranded in the entryway. Their power evaporated. The lever had been pulled. And for the first time, I watched their confidence crumble inside the house they would never own. By Monday morning, the fallout had already begun. At 8:12, my phone buzzed with a text from my aunt. Heard about Saturday. Your mom's furious. Told everyone you blindsided them. Attached was a photo from church coffee hour. Mom sitting stiffly, arms crossed, while a neighbor leaned over whispering. Her expression said everything. That same afternoon, I got a voicemail from Dad. His voice was strained, angrier than I'd ever heard. You humiliated us in front of a professional. Do you realize how this looks? Everyone knows we can't control our own daughter. I deleted it without saving. Meanwhile, the practical consequences started closing in. Property tax was due. $3,400 this quarter. My parents had assumed I'd fold and let them manage it through a sale. Instead, I paid it myself online, the confirmation email glowing like proof of independence. My brother showed up at my door on Wednesday evening, smelling faintly of beer. You made me look stupid, he spat. Dalton told half the realtors in town. No one's touching that house now. I leaned against the doorway, calm. Good. Because it isn't yours to touch. His jaw clenched. He muttered something under his breath, then stormed off into the night. But the biggest shift wasn't theirs. It was mine. For the first time since Grandma's funeral, I walked through the house without flinching at the thought of losing it. I cooked dinner in the old kitchen, the smell of garlic and herbs filling the air, and felt peace instead of dread. I spent Saturday painting the shutters, my earbuds humming music, neighbors waving as they passed. I wasn't hiding anymore. The house was no longer a battlefield. It was mine again. And as for them, they were left scrambling, angry, and powerless. Exactly where they put me for years. It was Sunday evening, 1927, when the knock came. I opened the door to find both of them. Mom clutching her cardigan tight, Dad holding a manila envelope. The hall smelled faintly of rain and wet leaves. They didn't wait to be invited in. Dad set the envelope down on my entry table with a thud. These are papers, he said flatly. We want you to sign the house over to us. We'll take care of the taxes and upkeep. You're not ready for the responsibility. Mom's voice cracked as she added, Please, Hannah. Stop being stubborn. This is about family. I opened the envelope. Blank transfer forms. No names filled in, just spaces waiting for my signature. My chest tightened, but not with fear anymore, with clarity. Wordlessly, I walked to the side table, pulled out my blue folder, and laid the deed on top of their papers. My name glared in bold print. I stacked receipts beside it. Furnace $1,200, roof $2,000, wiring $1,000. I flipped open my phone showing screenshots of the tax payment confirmation. March 1st, 8:54 a.m. $3,400 paid in full. Mom's mouth opened then closed again. This, I said calmly, tapping the papers, is ownership. This is responsibility. And this, I pushed their blank forms back toward them, is wishful thinking. Dad's face flushed red. You'll regret this. You're choosing paperwork over your own blood. I met his glare without blinking. No, I'm choosing truth over lies. The wall clock ticked loud in the silence, its hands sliding past 1941. Mom's eyes shimmered with something between shame and fury. You're colder than I thought. I closed the folder with a firm snap. No, I'm clearer than you ever expected. They left without another word, the door clicking shut behind them. The rain had picked up outside, pattering against the windows, but inside the air felt steady. The truth gap was sealed. No twisting, no threats, no guilt could pry it open again. The house was mine by law, by effort, by choice. And now they knew it too. It's late May now, 2 months since that envelope hit my table, and life finally feels settled. Most mornings begin the same. The smell of fresh coffee drifting through the kitchen, sunlight spilling across the wooden floors my grandmother once polished herself. I sit by the window with my notebook, writing small goals, paint the upstairs bathroom, grow herbs in the garden, add $500 more to my emergency savings. Simple things that belong only to me. The house no longer feels like a battlefield. Feels like home again. I've sanded the porch railing, planted daisies along the walkway, even replaced the curtains in the living room with ones I picked, linen, light gray. Nothing like Mom's heavy florals. My parents? The calls slowed then stopped. The last message from Dad was clipped. We won't bother you again. My brother hasn't shown his face since the night he stormed out. The silence is their answer and I accept it. My new boundaries are quiet but firm. No signatures, no transfers unless they carry my name alone. No family decisions that erase me. No stepping back into roles where I'm expected to disappear. Instead, I've begun planning forward. In 6 months, I'll host my closest friends here. Nothing fancy, just laughter around the dining table my grandmother once used for Sunday roasts. The house will finally hold joy again, not tension. Tonight, as I lock the door and feel the cool brass under my palm, I breathe deeply. The garden smells faintly of soil and fresh rain. Inside, everything is quiet, steady mine. I'm not the daughter cornered at a dinner table anymore. I'm the woman who said no and meant it. And that boundary is stronger than any deed.